Earlier this week, we discussed a change in consumer purchasing habits at the national level. In particular, a switch to dinner sausage over more expensive meat options. The transition signals a poor economy, or at least lower purchasing power among consumers. But what happens when a broader national level doesn't always apply to Alaska? Well, to learn more about the state of our own economy in the last frontier, Adrian Peterson spoke with the Department of Labor.
High inflation, especially of just certain items, is more likely to lead to substitutions. But conceptually, that's not that different.
While inflation has come back down to near normal levels, the large spike that came about at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic has kept Alaskans in a tight spot like most of the nation. From groceries to fuels and property, costs remain high and in some cases volatile.
I think the biggest story is probably just that inflation has come way down. It's still not where the Federal Reserve is trying to get it, just a little bit higher than the target.
As inflation goes down, wages, especially for lower income workers, have risen faster, but folks are still struggling in part due to some markets retaining higher prices. This includes some supermarket prices, but primarily larger long-term costs, such as housing, fuel, and transportation. Housing in particular being unusually unaffordable.
Three basic factors. You mentioned building material costs. That's one. Labor shortage is another. The amount that you have to pay electricians and plumbers and carpenters has gone up because there just aren't quite as many workers. And then interest rates is the other big one.
Supply is another issue, and questions remain as to why it hasn't increased as much as expected. Renters face more challenges with supply than other costs as Airbnb and similar platforms choke the supply of available units.
We wrote about transportation specifically, and it was pretty volatile.
That volatility impacting fuel, new cars, and used cars. The computer chip shortage during the pandemic is also carried onward as it changed manufacturing priorities.
It changed what manufacturers were building. If they could only build so many, they were going to build higher value cars to maximize their margin, whatever.
That also means that many of the vehicles in pre-owned markets have held higher value as well, keeping used car prices higher in many cases. As for fuel, many disruptions have led to fluctuations in the last few years, including a lack of travel to a spike in travel, as well as the war in Ukraine. Those prices are returning to normal levels too, however. This is Adrian Peterson reporting for News Center Fairbanks.